Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Thank you for watching the channel. Do like and subscribe and all the rest of it. Maybe get my book, HMP Manchester Prison Officer, which is on Amazon, as you all know. Anyway, I'm going to talk today about an escape from prison by a man called Michael Cox, age 22. I'll show you his photograph. I've got a picture here somewhere. There we are. I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Perhaps not. Turn it round the other way. That's more like it. Yeah, there you are. You can just about see that, yeah. Michael Cox, age 22, described as being a violent, dangerous man, has escaped from HM prison, HOLLESLEY Bay, otherwise known as Holiday Bay. Yeah, because there's so many escapes from Holiday Bay. Yeah, that's what's been reports since 2022, I believe. Number of escapes, and it's a virtual open prison with inmates working out of the prison. Approximately 100 of the inmates working outside of the prison, and it also houses young offenders. It was originally opened in 1938 as a borstal, and one of the former inmates of HMP HOLLESLEY Bay, when it was a borstal, was the author Brendan Behan. Brendan Behan wrote a number of books. He also wrote about imprisonment, and one of his novels was called Borstal Boy, which recounted the time in 1939 when he was a borstal boy at HOLLESLEY Bay. Another ex-inmate of HOLLESLEY Bay as an adult was Jeffrey Archer, another writer. As such, he calls himself, what is it? The greatest storyteller in the world. Well, that's the greatest story of them all, the fact that he's the greatest storyteller. If he's the greatest storyteller, then my hat's a banana. Anyway, we're talking about Michael Cox, age 22, violent man, grievous bodily harm, violent disorder. What? He's serving 11 and a half years, by the way. What is he doing in an open prison? You don't post people who have got violence on their records, who's serving a sentence like that. Yeah, it's a long sentence, and put him in HOLLESLEY Bay. Yeah, no wonder they call it Holiday Bay. Anyway, he's gone on the run and disappeared. At 7 p.m. they did a roll call and he wasn't there. Well, he is somewhere, but he looks a bit of a violent character, so I'll definitely keep a distance from him if you happen to see him. Anyway, it's a bit unlikely, isn't it? But anyway, that's it. Michael Cox, age, absconded from HMP HOLLESLEY Bay. Now, when I was in the prison service, I know we're casting our minds back a little while here, but when I was in the prison service, you couldn't get into open conditions unless you were considered. You had to be carefully vetted. You know, you couldn't. I mean, basically, the open prisons were people like white-collar crime. Are you with me? You know, like fraud and embezzlement and stuff like that. But not grievous bodily harm, goodness me. I mean, you've got to see that the people who are living in the area of HOLLESLEY Bay are going to be rather concerned about their safety if HOLLESLEY Bay is housing inmates that are obviously dangerous. I mean, by the very nature of the fact that it's a prison, it would indicate that the people who are in there are not exactly saints. It isn't a monastery, it's a prison. But it should be a prison that is holding inmates that have been carefully vetted and are either at the end of their sentences or are considered to be white-collar offenders such as Jeffrey Archer I mean, he was in for perjury, wasn't he? That he misled the court when he was accused of associating with a certain prostitute. Huh? And he claimed that he was doing it for research for his book or something, I don't know. It was some nonsense like that. Anyway, he lives at the old vicarage at Grantchester. Did you know that? Made famous by a poet who wrote about the place. He's obviously quite wealthy, Jeffrey Archer. He didn't get involved in prison reform when he was invited to do so by Mark Leach, Eric Allison and myself. We were at the time doing lectures and tours around the left-wing bookstores. You could always tell the MI5 officers because I mean, if you're going to go undercover, I mean, you don't wear a suit, do you, and start sitting there looking like you're from MI5. Yeah, but they were doing that, yeah. Crazy, yeah. I have got a file at MI5. I'm not a threat to society by any means, absolutely not. All I say is that prison doesn't work, and you should treat people with a degree of humanity, because to treat them otherwise, you're just building a problem. I've seen people coming out of prison, who are ready to go. They're so angry at the treatment that they've received inside that they are ready to explode. That's no way to run society, is it? And you've got to examine this. I mean, it really needs somebody of intellect to sit down and say, what is the reason for prison? What are we using it for? Prior to 1868, they didn't really have a great many prisons. They built about 90 prisons within about 20 years, Built prisons like Wormwood Scrubs, Pentonville, Wandsworth, Armley Jail at Liverpool, Strangeways in Manchester, 1868. And 1868 was the year that they stopped public hangings. Up to then, they were hanging people in public. And it was being used as like circus comes to town, We've got a public hanging, we'll turn out for that. The witches from Pendle Hill and that area, they were hung in public on Gallows Hill at Lancaster. They weren't hung inside the prison, and they weren't burnt at the stake. They were hung at Gallows Hill, yeah. And they were basically semi-literate, ignorant women who were using their own skills to help heal people and look after the community. They were branded as witches by some overzealous magistrate. Anyway, that's the rant for today about Holiday Bay. Shouldn't be putting prisoners, inmates in there with a history of extreme violence. That's the song dinger, by the way. Yep, Larry's gone now. Grabbed his goat and run for it. Not going to sing to you though, you're safe, yeah. How are you doing, Catherine? I haven't heard from you for a bit. Did you play that song to your dad? Yeah, and Paula? I belong to Glasgow, dear old Glasgow town. I said I wasn't going to sing to you, but you had the song dinger anyway, so it was a bit of a warning. I'm going to read you a poem. This is a poem from my book, Flowers and Collected Poems by John G. Sutton. This is Are We Bothering? And I'll read this in a Lancashire accent, because it's about a Lancashire man who finds that his wife has suddenly become interested in enjoying herself again after many years. Yeah? It's called Are We Bothering? Are you ready? Are you ready, folks? Yeah? Right. Are We Bothering by John G. Sutton. I've been wedded. I'm reading this in a Lancashire accent, by the way. I've been wedded over 40 years to the same woman, me wife. She calls me not fit for burn, but still is in me life. Her cooks me grub and washes clothes, she makes our home reek gradely. But when it comes to making love, her answer's allus, aye, maybe. These days I get no leg over, she doesn't want to know. Her looks at me as if I'm daft when I reaches out me paw, and if I ask how we bothering, the answer's allus no. I'm getting reet frustrated living like a monk, and her she sits and knits away, so I goes and gets reet drunk. But till the need I get a freet, I'm just getting home from pub. Her pulls me out flat hat off, and my back she starts to rub. By gum, thou looks a proper mon, she whispers in me ear. I'm thinking, hey, hold on a bit, I'm fairly full of beer. But Mrs. was unstoppable. She soon had me upsteer. Ripped off me corduroy undies and never said a prayer. That were the best scene too I've had in nigh on 20 year. And what was it that stirred her up to make her love and want me? Instead of sitting knitting socks, she'd been watching Full Monty. Now every night I'm down the pub on blue movies she's wallowing. Her knit one, pearl two's been forgot, and her cry is, are we bothering? There you go. Are We Bothering by John Sutton. John G. Sutton, by the way. Thank you very much.